Another week of charts and trade ideas and trading prep and all the good stuff. And appreciate you guys tuning in live on X. We are live streaming on Wolf's platform as well, or Wolf's channel, as well as my own trader at Trader Nate here. And then we are live streaming on the Trading Triangle and Wolf's also Wolf's YouTube channel over on YouTube. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Be sure you subscribe, smash the like button. And with that, let's get to the usual Trading Triangle round. Sean, how you doing today?
Yeah, good. I mean, what a week that was, eh? Fed power, all the earnings. I mean, I'm exhausted and it's still Sunday. So, yeah, I didn't know the day
know,
off.
my brain's like swirling with all the information from last week.
Yeah.
I gotta slow it down. I feel you. How about you, Kay? How you doing?
I mean, as you guys said it, right? It was a phenomenal week. And I really hope all the trades that you guys took probably were successful. Hopefully you got out in time. And that's what I was like. And next week's going to be a banger as well. So we'll see how that plays out.
It is. I have no doubt about it. We've got a lot of popular stocks, reporting earnings. It should have some good volatility that comes with that. And with that comes a lot of trading opportunities. So definitely looking forward to that. Real quick, before we jump in, our disclaimer: this is not trading advice, nor is it financial advice. This is all educational and informational purposes only. I almost said infotainment, which I suppose that's what this is. So thanks for tuning in. And again, subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, let's get to some charts. What do you think, guys?
Let's do it.
Let's do this. So we got a nice week, like you said, Kay, coming up. A lot to get to. But last week, we always like to look at how the performance was. And yeah, look at Amazon kind of standing out. Meta, of course. I mean, what did you guys think about Meta's move?
I think Meta took the crown for last week. I mean, you don't see that move on stocks of that level.
Yeah, and like the move of bringing the dividend forward, like honestly, it's pretty genius if you ask me. You're thinking we're at these levels, what can Meta do? Like we've got to be peaked out here. And they're like, how's dividend sound? Up we go. It was an amazing move. Like yeah, I was impressed, quite frankly. Anything else, you guys?
I mean, we had like players like Nvidia, you had Tesla, but I think Meta just took over the week, I would say.
Took all the headlines, yeah.
Yeah, it really did. Let's keep it going. Go ahead.
We did say Apple -4. So that's interesting to see as well. The one that let us all down, unfortunately.
Well, yeah.
But it wasn't too bad, really, I thought. I mean, the earnings call was pretty good and lots of positive things to say. But yeah.
Well, I think we highlighted a double top, or at least I know I did. I think we talked about it. I can't remember.
Apple, yeah.
Yeah, so the double top is there. And, the one other name, too, Google was really red last week. So
yeah,
might be an opportunity there for those looking to go longer term with Google. Meta, though, you're right. You guys are right. Took off. And then NVIDIA, it's almost like old news. Like, oh, yeah, how much was NVIDIA last week? So anyways, yeah, let's keep it going. We had the fear and greed index solidly in the greed. And I actually put a poll out on this on X, you guys. And people are bullish. Like I thought we would have more timid, kind of thoughts. But I was like, hey, are we going to 500 or are we going to pull back? And it was, easily 2-1 more upside. You feeling the same way, Kay? You feeling like we're bullish heading into the week?
Yeah, I think so too. Especially with a couple other stocks that are coming in, and the guidance for all the big tech players were amazing, minus Tesla. I mean, most other stocks are doing pretty well. I mean, the main reason you see 4% down in Apple is also Apple was trading almost at all-time high. So you need a real massive catalyst for it to go even further. They did hint on AI, but they really haven't launched anything on AI standpoint. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, still very bullish on the overall sentiment.
You too, Sean? You bullish? You're usually bullish, right?
Normally, yeah. I mean, all the time the market's making higher highs and higher lows. It's hard not to be, isn't it? So
I agree.
Just riding that wave. But yeah, I'm definitely bullish, that's for sure.
The trend is higher. We will see that in the charts. But yeah, last week, VIX still with a 13 handle, SPY up 1.3%, QQQ's up 1%, Diamonds up over 1%, which I like seeing. I'm definitely more heavily weighted in DIA, which maybe I'm just talking my book here, but yeah, I like seeing that move higher with industrials. And then small caps did pull back. So we got to get above 200 for IWM, and it just won't do it. I think when it finally breaks, it's going to move, but we'll see. Bitcoin, 43K. I can't remember. That's kind of flat, or did it actually make a
No,
move.
it was up a little bit. It was up. It was
Up, right?
42,000 last week when we.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
continue to trend higher. I mean, just been great. If you've been in Bitcoin over the past year, you've been doing all right for sure. All right. And yeah, we got Trader AZ out there chatting about a bunch of names reporting this week. And we have a couple of them for sure. We've got Palantir charts and or a chart on Palantir, I should say, and Disney, PayPal, NXPI. Look at all these names. We got reporting earnings this week, you guys. I don't even know where to start, honestly. I mean, start top left and just start reading through them all. Caterpillar, I'm definitely interested there, you know. And Palantir also on Monday, which is after the close. Personally, I'm big in semiconductor names, so I'm looking at RMBS, which is after the market. RMBS, got a chart on that. What else, Kay?
From my standpoint, I think you mentioned a couple of them. I'll be looking at Snap as well. Not that I invest on it, but just like to track Snap. I'm also focused on AFRM and Cloudflare. Those are the ones that I'm tracking this week closely because, and then of course Uber is there, PayPal is there, ARM. ARM is some, not a lot of people talk about ARM. It's also from the semiconductor standpoint,
Yep.
but I don't have a trade in it yet. But something, we'll see how it plays out over the course of time. And then you got some dividend players like Pepsi, McDonald's. If you're a dividend investor, you probably are watching this as well.
We were talking about PayPal before the going live here, and the big announcement, and then the kind of dud, and then layoffs announced. Now we have earnings, so PayPal staying in the headlines. I guess nothing like getting whatever kind of headlines you can get, positive or negative. So
positive or negative.
Anyways, that'll be interesting Wednesday. What about you, Sean? What are you looking at? Anything else?
Yeah, the obvious ones, obviously Palantir, Disney, PayPal, big ones, but also obviously Alibaba before open on Wednesday. Looking forward to seeing what they can do. Q4 is obviously normally quite a good month for kind of online retail kind of stocks. That's interesting to see what the results will be there. Obviously, Chinese aspect as well, which should be interesting as well. And also, I quite like the idea of Pinterest because I've followed them for some reason the last few quarters, and they've hired a new CFO back in, I think it was May or June last year. And they've really changed the company for the positive, especially from the financial aspects and kind of changing strategy. So it'd be nice to see that can kind of continue. And I will be streaming that on my channel as well, Pinterest earnings.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
So I didn't know that. And I put my fist not because I'm big on Pinterest, but because I almost teed you up for Pinterest. I was like, Sean's got to be trading Pinterest. And here we are.
I'm interested in it.
Yeah. So that's cool. You're interested. Not trading yet, but definitely interested. So nice. And another name that's kind of off the radars, I think, but if I'm not mistaken, it's at pretty much at its lows, or at least recent lows, is Hershey, which reports Thursday before the bell. Kind of interesting before Valentine's Day. And
is that it's being an arrival of Mr. Beast chocolate, isn't it?
I guess so.
I'm pretty, because every time you see his video, it's like his chocolate versus Hershey's chocolate. So
that's right.
It might actually be quite bad, perhaps.
Honestly,
it's just a bad claim.
Looking at your Hershey's chart, it has a pretty, on a weekly, it's bouncing off the 200-day moving average. Now it's above the 50-day, 20-day moving average. Very interesting.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, people have their opinions on which chocolate is best. That's like a whole other topic and debate for sure. And I would not put Hershey's at the top of the list, but they run a good business. I'll say that much. All right, guys. Yeah, a lot going on with earnings this week. So what else do we have here? Yeah, PayPal, Palantir. And is NXPI reporting this week? Maybe not. Maybe I just missed it. I'm not sure. And we've got Amgen. I mean, the list goes on. CVS, Uber. Yeah, we'll keep moving. But I think we're going to have a lot to talk about all week long. Looking forward to seeing the live streams and what have you. All right, so the chart for SPY mentioned following the trend, higher highs and higher lows, you said, Sean. And here we are. The trend line is pretty clear. The 20-day moving average is right there on the trend, kind of holding court. And we had the 50-day move above the 150-day moving average. You guys know I like the 150. The 20 above the 50 as well. So a lot of positive things going on here. And we're marching to 500. I mean, like I said, the pollsters were in and they're positive. And what do you see on this chart, Sean? What am I missing?
You're not missing a lot. I mean, it's very hard to analyze a chart that's just doing this, making higher highs, higher lows, following a trend, because that's kind of the only thing you can kind of follow on with, isn't it? If you have a previous resistance, then obviously you can probably talk about that, but obviously this one doesn't. So yeah, all-time highs, and I expect it to continue to 500. And for me personally, I think that's a psychological level, obviously massive, half a thousand as well. So
Yeah, right.
I think 500. I think we pull back a little bit, maybe towards kind of 450-ish. Now is that? No, yeah, 485-ish. But yeah, I think that would be natural and just continue to trend up. And obviously, we've got CPI in a couple of weeks as well, so that would be an interesting report to kind of read through and get a kind of handle on the macroeconomic situation. So yeah, interesting stuff.
What do you think, Kay?
Well, I think from a put to call, Friday, the 2-2 put to call was 2.1, and for next Friday, it's 2.03. So looks bullish from that standpoint.
Yeah, it does look bullish from that standpoint, from the chart standpoint. The way I look at this is, what is the acronym? BTFD, right? When we pull back to the trend line, you buy the dip, and until the trend line breaks, it should make you money. And when the trend line breaks, that's when you cut and you maybe take a small loss and wait and see what happens. And that could be, a shakeout, or it could be a reversal. But until then, keep riding the trend. All right, QQQs. I honestly hope you guys have more to say here, because the same sentiment, Sean. I was like, what do you say here? I mean, it's just it's now trying to make new, push higher. I'm going to be watching for it to get above Friday's highs, I guess, and watching the 20-day moving average for kind of support. It's pretty simple. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like looking for a breakout trade, isn't it? Which sounds absolutely mad, considering the move we've been making since kind of October last year. But that's, again, like you say, with these markets and these trends, that's kind of what you get, really, isn't it? Breakout, retest, move on higher until you say, the trend is broken. But yeah, I think that 430 level you've marked there, I think if you can break that, come down, retest it, move up. I'm not too sure. It's like a fib extension. Maybe Kay, you could bring this up next week on the fib extension for the QQQ. So I know you like doing that.
Okay.
So it could be interesting to see that kind of thing perhaps play out. So yeah, interesting things for QQQ.
Yeah, and then on the put to call, man, it's very positive. You had 1.8 expiration this Friday, and it's 1.52 next Friday. And with volatility still like in the 15-16 range, so it looks positive on the put to call side.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I'm almost starting to think, like, where are the contrarians at? Where are you guys at? Because this is when you should be popping in, right? Everything's very bullish. Everybody's very positive. And we just had an amazing week of earnings. The markets shrugged off. Like, we got told by Powell, there's no rate cuts in March, basically. I mean, there's no guarantee, but like, it's basically what he said. And the markets were like, oh, that kind of sucks. All right, keep going. And off we went, So I think the earnings are really speaking loudly. And we've got a lot to, I think over 100 companies report next week. So just more coming, right? All right, Palantir, over to you, Sean.
So yeah, Palantir. So this, obviously, the earnings are tomorrow night. After the close tomorrow night for me, I like to sit back and watch a mitt with a beer and some popcorn and just enjoy the thing. No puts, no calls, no shares, just going for it. But yeah, you can see the implied move is the yellow lines, so $15, near enough, and $19 as well, which you can kind of see I've kind of attached roughly to the kind of support and resistance around them. And we're kind of trading within this wedge, but of course, that doesn't mean anything until tomorrow evening. So I'm looking for kind of a move either way. And you can see the white lines breaking up, for the higher one at $19, breaking up above it, coming down, retesting the $19 level, and what's that, $21.60 level. And on the contrary side of that is the $15 level. If we break down, come up, retest the resistance, and then break that back down to 1360-ish. So that's the kind of moves I'm looking for. Of course, it could work out completely differently. It could also just not move on earnings, which is very unlikely with Palantir. You can see actually on this chart about halfway through that green shield just above the RSI. That was the last earnings move. Really nice move up, and obviously continued subsequently. A few details around the stock. So we're looking for 0.04 EPS and revenue around 620 million. So it's interesting to see if we can kind of meet that, beat that, that kind of thing. And obviously guidance for companies like this, especially in the growth sector. We're looking for good guidance going ahead for the quarters ahead. And obviously S&P inclusion, I think maybe a few details around that. Probably get a few questions on the earnings call. which I'll listen out for as well. So a few things going for Palantir. Obviously, going to stop talking now so you can actually have some thoughts. And yeah, what do you say?
Man, I'm bullish Palantir. It's what I've got going on my side is, I like these anchored VWAPs, and we've got a nice bounce support off of one, and it's kind of pinching between the other that I've got. So and then the 50-day moving average is also just above that. So if it gets moving and then we can get above 1750, that's above the 50-day moving average and above the anchored VWAP from the highs back in August of last year. That's like what I'm looking at as the key level. So once it gets above there, I think that forms a nice swing trade higher, position potentially to jump in. But yeah, I like the support it's been showing here. It's kind of retested this level near 16 a couple times, and yeah, hoping that we can see move higher. Totally biased opinion there though. Like I don't own shares, but I just kind of I've been tracking it for a while, and I'm thinking about trading this one for a move higher. So yeah, looking good.
So would you be looking for like a retest of 1750? Did you mention that? Or would you just want it to get through 1750?
I would just want it to get through. I would take a partial position on a strong move through, and then if it did retest, fill that out. That's kind of how I would look at it. Yeah. But yeah, to your point, what you're getting at, I think, is like, when would you enter the trade? And I like on this particular setup where we'd be getting through like the 50-day and what have you, sometimes stocks just take off and they don't get the retest. And so I'll take maybe a smaller position, and Palantir is one of those that, sometimes that works out.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kay?
The put to call is 0.58 with implied volatility of 133. So that's amazing. So if you are selling options, you're probably going to get a lot of premium. And if you are buying options, then it's probably going to be very expensive. Looking at all the technicals as well, like, you do see the signal trending positive on the MACD as well. And then I feel there's a lot of room for the stock to run with RSI only being 50. So,
good call.
And then, and the latest one was we did cross the 21-day moving average as well. So looking positive. It's definitely going to be pending on earnings. I think there's going to be a lot of anticipation going into it.
So exciting stuff, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, good chart, Sean.
Yeah. Awesome. So this next one is, I don't know why the square is there. Oh yeah, no, I do know why the square is there. So this next one is Ford, not one I brought up before, and not one I really look at that much.
It's a new name for us, right?
It is, yeah. And I kind of wanted to highlight this one because obviously it's in the auto sector as well. I kind of follow that a little bit, obviously with Tesla, NIO, etc. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of the earnings call says around kind of the supply issues and all that kind of stuff, demand issues. But yeah, this one is more of a technical setup for me, and you can see where the volume profile really bulges out of that $12 level. Obviously, the price action is around that kind of level within the chart that you see, so it does make sense. But you've also got the trend line, kind of resistance trend line kind of coming down as well. And you can see the big white arrow right in the middle of the screen there. And that is to kind of come up, retest it, and move up to kind of 1380, which you're going to have to take my word for it is a nearest solid support, nearest solid resistance, sorry. Going back a little bit, I just don't want to crowd the chart too much. And I said about the square, I don't know why I've drawn that. I actually don't know why I've drawn that. So I'm going to kind of ignore the square. But yeah, I think there's still basically room to move for Ford. It's a nice little wedge, and it's just a case of just breaking through it. It's a nice setup, nice and clean as well. So not too many kind of jagged days. It's a slow moving stock. So it could be one of those for people that don't like too much volatility, if it is obviously to play out. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
One thing too, the options contracts aren't going to be nearly as juiced and pricey as you might get in some of the other names we talk about. So that's also, when Ford moves, it may not move, $3-4 at a time, but it doesn't need to, from an options perspective, to still get some good returns, because the options are priced to not move that much. So for what that's worth. And then I'm going to take a stab at the square there, because, man, it's funny. We were talking again about there's just so much going on that we've got our heads in a million
I did it Friday night, so
yeah, you've already forgot.
It's a blur.
Stuff we looked at. But what I'm calling out here is the resistance. I think that's just some real resistance that's proven with that line of that you've drawn out there that we need to get above and break through to get the trade for the breakout trade. So, that's
I know
really, I
that
think,
drew
what
it
you're highlighting there is it was really tested. It wasn't like a quick touch point. It was like he gave it a go and then pulled back. So breaking
Exactly
through it, I
right.
think, will be meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, you just reminded me of why I put the square there, so thank you for that, and thank you
Nice.
to the watchers really more than me. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
What about you, Kay?
not much on the Ford side for me, but the difference is the implied move on earnings for Ford is about 5-6%, whereas for the previous stock, which was Palantir, was about 13-14%, and some of the other stocks that we talk about, which are much more volatile, are 15 to 20%. So yeah, you would not see that much of a major move. But there are a couple of I think wasn't like a couple weeks ago that Ford mentioned that they are actually cutting down on their Ford Lightning production.
Oh, is that
I'm
right?
not sure. No, I'm not sure.
I think so. I think that's the news came out a couple weeks ago. And the latest one that I heard from Ford was that they are now shipping Tesla adapters to all the Ford users, EV car users. So that's
Yeah.
Wow.
Tesla
I
has.
don't I don't track Ford anymore since I divested from my positioning. But yeah, I mean, it's a slow moving stock. Let's put it this way. It's not as exciting as Tesla or any others.
No.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a nice little shout out to Tesla being a first mover, always ahead of everybody. What's up, Sean? Sorry, throw it back to you.
No, it's all right. It's fine.
We're done with Ford. Awesome.
We're done with Ford. Moving on.
It's a good chart. It's a good chart. Thanks again for bringing
It
this
is.
one forward. Forward.
So yeah, you can obviously follow me on Twitter/X, and I'm posting quite a lot now around charts, kind of daily. It's part of my routine to kind of get up early in the morning, kind of go through a few charts and stick them out there to obviously help everyone that's kind of following kind of perceived charts, etc. Over on the YouTube channel, I go live every Friday now, 15 minutes before the market close. So go ahead and join me over there, stick some tickers in there. We can have a little chat around the markets going in the week. And I've got a Robin Hood video coming out tonight, I believe. I've just got to edit it, get it out. Yeah, that's it for me, really. I don't really have a newsletter at the moment, so I'm kind of putting that on hold. So yeah, that's it. Over to you, Nate.
Thanks, Sean. That's good stuff. And shout out to retail trader Rob. I agree. He agrees with everything we were saying about, with respect to Ford, basically with that that resistance level breaks, we get moving. Good stuff. All right, guys, keep it going. And I've got two charts. I got RMBS, RMBS, and next Alibaba. So hopefully those are of interest. Both report this week, right? And quick, a shout out to, I guess, Trader AZ. Jump back to NXPI is what I was trying to say. NXPI earnings are on the 5th, so keep an eye on that. That's tomorrow after market. So interesting. I don't know how I missed that, but I did. And Rambus, same kind of situation here, right? Where we've got a nice setup and earnings coming through. And normally I like to trade heading into earnings, but here we are. I really like this setup here, so I wanted to bring it forward. We talk about NVIDIA all the time. We talk about AMD. We talk about a lot of different stuff in the semiconductor space. But Rambus is kind of like off the radar a little bit. It's a smaller cap company, and but the chart, if you zoom out, has looked really nice over the course of the last year, really. And so we've got this kind of push above and now retest of the highs we had earlier last year, mid last year, summer last year. And I'm hoping that these levels hold, and there's a lot of reason to think they might. We've got anchored volume weighted average price, anchored VWAP, that's coming up as support right along with the 50-day moving average, and a nice bounce Friday right on this big volume shelf, right? You see that volume shelf there, Sean? I know you spot these faster than I do. And it's a nice big long one that sticks out there. And if we can get a bounce here, I think it tries to get back to 75. I don't know. It's kind of straightforward. We've got RSI. Kay, now that you mentioned it earlier, RSI is above 50, but plenty of room to run higher. Do you see anything else on this chart? I threw
No,
too early. I switched it up, mixing it up.
Confusing us.
the interesting thing that I was looking for RMBS was in the last 17 quarters, they have not missed a single EPS or revenue.
17 quarters? Is that what you
17
said?
quarters, yes. So since the last miss was in 2019 Q2. So since then, they have not missed a single EPS or revenue.
That's impressive. I mean, is there records? Do we have records for that? Can we call, the stat guys in and figure out,
Well,
like
that
in the
is
semiconductor space and then just in general what the records are? I'd love to know. That's good stuff. Well, yeah, I think it's continuing, to look strong. So maybe we get another strong earnings report tomorrow. Sean, what do you think about the chart here? Technicals looking good to you?
Technicals are looking good. I think getting above that 68 level was, like you mentioned, very, very important. Does this kind of coincide with NVIDIA and AMD much, or is it just kind of a lone wolf price movement?
It does move with it, but it's not correlated like 100% or anywhere near it. It does move on its own. I like it. Lone wolf a little bit. Yeah.
See, I find that quite appealing. Sorry.
Right. No, exactly right. It'll have these like sharp pullbacks and then bounces. And so give you a little bit more opportunities. And yeah, no, I agree with you. Instead of just trading what everybody's trading, you find these stocks that move a little bit different. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, no, exactly right. It's a bit more independently with their movement. And the other thing I was going to say is if you drew like a little Fibonacci from the low of kind of around 10th of January up until the kind of 29th of January, you've got that kind of 50% retracement as well, alongside all the supports that you mentioned with the
Good eye.
OVWP. So it's just an extra kind of complementary point there. So just, yeah, thought you might like that.
I like that a lot. Yeah, the fib. I'm gonna actually apply that and see where we're at exactly. It does look like it's right at the 50% mark. Kay, do you like to get in on trades at that point as well? Like, get that 50% retracement?
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm also looking at the options, man. I mean, it's a monthly option, so this is not a weekly options for.
Right.
So it's giving you almost like 2% a week. So 4%. The next expiration is 16 Feb. You're for let's say 67.5 strike price. You're getting almost $300 to $330 in premium.
Yeah, the premiums are juice. I think the spreads are kind of wide, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a $30 spread.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a spread there, so that makes it a little tougher to trade on the option side. But like you said, the premiums there, if you're getting in and you're selling them, you can get some nice fat premiums juice there. All right, good stuff. Hopefully we see semiconductors continue to move higher. Who would have thought? I mean, you'd think they would have cooled off by now, but nope. All right. This is the opposite. So Alibaba has totally cooled off and going the other direction. And, Sean, we were talking about the kind of all the Chinese stocks just having the heavy weight recently, all the news. But now there's other news coming in and might actually help and, move those stocks higher. So it's an interesting kind of risky space. And the way I kind of see things shaking out, I'd really love to get your guys' take on these two kind of thoughts, because I don't really have much of a bullish upside opinion right now. To me, it's more, we were in this downtrend here for Baba. It's been going all the way back to the summer of last year. And when everything else reversed in November, this just continued to sell, right? And along with, I think, a lot of other Chinese stocks. And so I've got since that sell off and the big gap down, I've got an anchored VWAP that comes in. It's been providing resistance. We've got the trend line providing resistance. We got the 50-day moving average, which you almost can't even see because it rides that trend line. I mean, there's 3 points of resistance there right at this volume shelf.
Yeah.
And I think we reject and go back to the bottom of the channel, which, that would put us down near 60, I guess. But more likely, I think maybe we found a bit of a bottom at 70 and, dipped a little bit lower, but maybe this is where it starts to consolidate. And that's what that second kind of choppy arrow I drew out is maybe we just kind of hold court here right at the 50-day moving average and let things, consolidate for a bit, for lack of a better way to put it. Who should I throw to first? I've been trying to confuse you guys all day. Sean, I'm going to you first. What do you think about Baba?
Yeah, so one thing I would say is obviously they do have earnings before market open on Wednesday, so that will definitely throw a spanner in the works as well in terms of price action. The other thing I was going to say is HSI. Obviously, it's the Chinese index, or the Hang Seng Index, and it's at the bottom of the channel. So imagine this channel you've drawn here, and you see that kind of arrow that's pointing down that you've kind of predicted. That's where the HSI is now. Obviously, you could keep following the channel down below, but obviously, if they kind of used to come through, that they're going to provide stimulus for the economy, which is
right.
kind of all we're hearing around the kind of Chinese sector at the moment is the stimulus coming. It's a big paycheck coming basically through for the economy. So that would be interesting to see. And obviously, Barber will obviously go up as a consequence. The market also says that's good. Support as well. But yeah, for me, I'm in as well, and I did what makes sense to me. He's got out. Yeah, I'm playing earnings. I'm expecting them. I should probably do. That's for sure.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And we might be breaking up a little bit there, Sean. It might just be on my end. But Kay,
No. Sean was breaking up as well.
I was a little bit. Okay, yeah. What would you add? Because I did catch most of that. What Sean's got going is he's getting in a little bit early.
So Sean does trade or does it trade a lot of Chinese stocks. So he has definitely more. I would say
he's more familiar with them than we are.
More familiar with it, right? Also, he's closer to mainland China as compared to us. But anyways, that's not the point. The point I was trying to make is I'm still not comfortable at these levels. I don't track HSI, so I really can't comment on that. But unless we see a break in the trend, even though, yes, the volume shelf is higher at that it's supposed to break that trend. But, with the BABA and the Chinese economy, you really don't know until things play out. And it's always, you don't really get to see really what's happening. Now, from what I have heard, at least, talking to friends who generally do Chinese stock trading, is there's another stock called PDD. It's called Pinduoduo. So that's like a cheaper version, not a cheaper version, but it's like for people, you get cheaper products on that as opposed to AliExpress or even whatever the Alibaba's main site is. So that has become very popular nowadays in China. I have not done this. Is just an anecdotal example I'm sharing with you all. Something to look into if you invest. I personally don't like to invest in Chinese stocks because I just don't have the visibility and I'm just not comfortable.
Yep, you gotta be paying attention, and you gotta manage your risk in a major way there, right? Like I tighten up my stop losses when I'm investing or trading in stocks like this for sure. But yeah, I think that it's worth looking at here for either a short or to see if it holds up. And you've got a really clear line that if it breaks above that, we could be off to the races. And that would be, looking at that 50-day moving average effectively. Again, we've got the trend line and the anchor VWAP right there. And if we do break higher, the next anchor VWAP was from the highs way back in July. That would target around $80, right? That would be like the next target point I would be getting at. So if we do get a move higher, look for 80 to come in as like maybe a bit of a resistance, 80, 82, something like that. And yeah, let's see if it happens. But right now the trend is definitely lower. So, right, follow the trend, don't fight it. That's the way I look at it. And Sean, your picture's cleared up, so I think we might have you back. Good to have you back.
Yeah, I think I had too many windows open. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, loud and clear.
The good news is if whatever happens to Barbara, I can just say, oh, I definitely said that.
Yeah, you were all over it. Sean nailed it again.
Sean nailed it.
So, hey guys, if you're looking for more from me, you can find me on X at Trader Nate here. I'm also writing for Wolf, so I posted every Sunday for Wolf's newsletter and help write some long form on Sundays for him as well. And then at A Trader's Education on Substack, which is my newsletter with daily posts. I also put trade ideas out. We've got DraftKings came out today, actually. We've got some things there. I've got CRISP most recently, CRSP, CRISPR, where I've got both I've got covered call and cash secure put ideas on that one.
Right. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, and then potential breakout trades, all kinds of good stuff going on in the newsletter. So be sure to check that out. And with that, I will hand it over to Kay. And by the way, guys, if you are listening in, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate everybody's support. And over to you, Kay. What do you got for us today?
Awesome. Thank you. So we have two tickers this week and both are reporting earnings. One, I'm actually in a trade and one I probably would be staying away. So the first one is Cloudflare Net. We have covered this few times on the channel here. But what really stands out right now is looking at their earnings. Most recently, they were part of the whole controversy where they fired the person, and the girl recorded the whole conversation. I don't know if you guys saw that. It was pretty popular on TikTok. People were posting that on LinkedIn. So, anyways, so Cloudflare was in the news because of all that good stuff. But going back to the technical analysis here, as you can see, we do see an uptrend here. We see higher highs and higher lows. So that is a good sign getting into the earnings. That's one. We also see a very good volume shelf, building out over there. I think that's around a little bit above the 77, 78 level. That's where the volume shelf majority of it is. And we are going into earnings where there's a lot of RSI room to run. And on top of it, there's a lot of bullish momentum. We saw 26 up revisions on the stock as opposed to just one down revision. So I think analysts are feeling it that there will be a lot of positive news coming out of Cloudflare, especially with just a general trend of most companies moving away from their on-premise infrastructure. So, these kind of companies like Okta, Cloudflare, and others, they just are going to become bigger as they, move on. And they have had a very tremendous earnings history. I think they did miss a revenue 2 quarters ago in March 2023, but since then, I mean, they don't really have. That was the only miss they had, and they have had buy ratings from analysts throughout January. So I'm very positive getting into the earnings, because the implied volatility is 104%. So you're going to get some very juicy premiums if you're selling a CSP, or if you're buying a call option. I mean, long dated call option, you might be able to pull it off, especially because the implied moves are generally pretty high for this company as well. Let me tell you exactly how much is the implied move. 1 second. I think we are looking at maybe 1 second.
So I'm really liking the way this is setting up.
10%.
You got a 10%. Nice.
Implied move, yeah.
So that's not bad at all. Like, I'll take 10% all day. Sorry, Kay, I didn't mean to jump in there. I was just going to say, while you're looking that up, that I was looking at this earlier as well on my own charts, and the 50-day moving average and 20-day moving average right here is support. And like on your chart, that whole sell-off from June basically until November, and then participating with the rally in November, like that's just a really nice place for consolidation. And then boom, here we go off to the races. And I don't see why we wouldn't continue running on a good report from Cloudflare. So I like this chart.
Yeah, I really like it too. Really nice setup. If we can get above that trend line and come down, maybe we test it, obviously, with the earnings. But I think, like you said, with the 10%, isn't it? So that would be about that. So we might get a bit of a pullback just after the announcement, perhaps. And then that might be a spot to get in if you haven't already played the earnings, of course. But just generally, that kind of line running across the screen, about 73. We've got a few resistance points kind of going on the left side of the screen. Obviously, it's acting as support on the right side of the screen. So again, that's a nice thing to see. And like you said, the RSI seems to be a bit of a trend tonight. The RSI kind of hovering around 50 for a lot of stocks. So that's interesting. I didn't really realize that until tonight. So I'll continue that.
I'm surprised too. Like most of the stocks we are covering, the RSI is like dead at 50, between 45 and 50. It's like amazing. So much room to run.
But if you look at SPY, right, it's right at the top and then quote unquote overbought for a while now. So that can continue to run, given that all these other names still have room to move higher. So
and also, if you think about it, right, most of these are, if we are talking about trading here, right, so you are not going to hold the stock. Once you get into profit, and I hope folks who took the SoFi trade last week, they got out with a 20% gain or whatever the percent gain was, because if you held it, you were down 12% for the week. So, especially if you're playing options, you got to get out as soon as you hit your target levels.
Yep, 100%. And one thing I always recommend, I'll just jump in real quick, is if you get a big move higher, big push that's not hitting your target level just yet, I scale out, because the premium's juice. And even if you get a pullback and then move back, gradually to that level, you probably end up with the same or a little bit less of a price, because the momentum fades a little, and so the options price, if it's short dated, will also fade. So
I'll give you a statistics that I found yesterday. So while I was doing the SoFi analysis, generally when on the earnings, the volume jumps in from anywhere between 45 million to, let's say, 120, 140 million, right? That is the generally on the earnings day. This particular earnings day, the volume was 270 million.
Oh, wow.
That's why you saw that big gap up on SoFi chart with about 20+%. And then, of course, once you have a gap, generally it does a gap fill, right? Whether it's on the downward gap or upward gap, right? There is a gap fill at most of the times. That's exactly what happened with SoFi. Well, any
Yeah,
more
immediate.
coming on that on my video. So,
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should plug that real quick. When is that coming out?
It's coming out tomorrow. I'll be posting it tomorrow.
Nice. I'll look forward to that because, yeah, that was quite the immediate gap fill if I've ever seen one. Should we keep it rolling?
Yeah, Shaun, do you have anything on this chart?
No, I've already said my piece on this chart.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, moving on to the next one, AFRM. This is also reporting earnings. Both stocks are reporting earnings on Thursday. So this one, I'm not a big fan of BNPL, but as you can see, the stock was $15 back in November. Now it also hit its all-time high, or at least in the near term, to $52. So there's a lot of momentum, especially being in the fintech space. A lot of companies use it. They have had a pretty decent guidance on their GMV, and that is amazing. But look at the implied move; it's 18%, as opposed to Cloudflare, which is about 10%. So you're looking at about $7-8 of an implied move. Wall Street has a hold rating on this one. Wall Street has a buy rating on Cloudflare. But we do see a very strong support coming on the fib level at 38, and there is also a confluence with the volume shelf there. You can see pretty decent volume there. And then put to call going into the earnings is 0.59 with 169% implied volatility. So if you are big into AFRM, you could take advantage of it. I'm going to stay away. But that's how I'm looking at the chart right now. There are different levels, but the volume starts to dry down after 38, and until you get to 24, that's when more volume picks up. So that's how I'm seeing the chart. But I'm staying away from this. I'm not getting into this trade for.
What do you think, Shaun?
Yeah, I think for me, it's not a very nice chart, to be honest, in terms of the price action, not the way you displayed it. It's beautiful. But basically, since the turn of the year, I think, just before the turn of the year, it's just been kind of trailing down, just kind of dribbling down. And that's kind of channel. And obviously, I'd be more interested after the earnings report, whether it be negative or positive, and playing it off that and between the levels that you've drawn. But just looking at this chart, it doesn't fill me with much joy, especially being below the 20 and the 50 as well. You said obviously the support at the 38% level for the Fibonacci. Again, I think it's not as solid as it could be. I think it's just trailing down a little bit, like a lower low. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this chart, but I'm interested in what happens with the earnings report, or at least post earnings report.
So I see a very clear setup here, you guys. And $44 level is probably right in line. So for those that like to trade AFRM, like I do think if you're bullish, the setup is here. It's like you said, Shaun, been dribbling, right? Not looking good, but it's kind of formed a very clear trend line from that peak down to where we're at. You could draw a clear line, I think, from that top to the tops of all of these recent candles that have been rejecting and back below the 20-day moving average. And I think that if we break above that line, it's probably going to break above that $44 level as well. It's right around the same spot. And that, close above 44, that's when I would, get bullish. It looks like, excuse me, a little bit of profit taking was here a little bit. And after a huge run up. And so why not? That seems healthy to me. You break that trend, continue higher, and keep the trend running. I think you're right. BNPL is actually kind of catching back on. So we'll see.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty good trade idea, because you still have about $3.5 on the stock, which is what, 9%, 8-9% if you're trading. Yeah.
Right. You still have plenty of room to run. Sorry, I was doing my best Patrick Mahomes impression there. Did that work? Anyways, yeah, you still have plenty of room to run, right? And RSI would also be in a little bit better spot. It's already in a fine spot.
Similar, about 50. You're looking at another RSI with 50.
So I actually kind of like this for a potential setup. I'm gonna Kay, you win this week for me for adding to
Oh,
my.
both of them? All right, I win this one. I brought both of them, right? No,
Yeah,
I
you did.
personally don't like to play a firm. It's too rich for me to play. If it was $20, I would play a firm, but at 50, I have better options that I can get more. And if I end up owning it, I'm happy owning that stock, underlying stock. So yeah, so that's it for this week from my side for both Net and Affirm. Of course, you can follow me on X. I do provide daily updates, especially during the earnings season. You will see a lot more updates from me on that. And then we talked about the videos. I do have a YouTube channel. You can follow me if you are a SoFi fan. I generally track SoFi pretty closely, and I often do multiple updates. And I do write on Substack as well.
Nice. I'm looking forward to the information on SoFi for sure. You said that's tomorrow. You're gonna drop that?
Tomorrow coming up. Yep.
Sweet. Definitely looking forward to that. You guys, I feel like we've got a lot ahead of us this week. I love the charts. So thanks again for bringing it. And for everybody who's out there listening, and Zion, shout out to you. Appreciate that you appreciate our analysis on Baba and for tuning in. I really think that, we've got clear levels yet again, which we've talked a lot in the past, by the way. I don't want to take clear levels for granted. We've had many weeks in the past where we're like, I don't know, markets are crazy and we just really don't have clear direction. And markets have given us clear direction. I mentioned buy the dip and follow the trend. Shaun, you're saying higher highs and higher lows. Like, until it's not, like, this is the way I like to trade. Just follow the trend and go with it and take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves. So no need to take outside risks, right? Like, you've got things lining up for you. Take solid trades. If they don't work, cut them and wait for the next one, because they are plentiful. There's tons of trading opportunities out there. So definitely looking forward to it this week, you guys. And I think I'll be trading DraftKings this week, just for what that's worth. Ahead of earnings, ahead of the big game, like a lot of reasons for people to get bullish. And I will say this though, short-term options, if you're trading options, because the ones that expire on the 16th, they're post earnings, and the premiums, unless you own DraftKings and want to sell those options, that's a great trade, right, Kay? But yeah, otherwise, that's where my head's at this week. Just wanted to put that out there for what it's worth. Shaun, I'll throw it over to you. What are your final thoughts for this week?
So obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to build towards 1,000 subscribers, and obviously that's a goal that we want to hit by the end of the year. But generally, if lots of earnings, is actually more than last week, as you mentioned earlier on the stream, Nate. So it's just kind of taking a step back and just relaxing, just enjoy the momentum, enjoy the results that come from the earnings reports, and kind of play on it post earnings. At least that's what I'm going to be doing. It's taking a bit of a step back. It was a bit of a busy week last week. So I'm just going to do that kind of whole less is more kind of mantra, shall we say, for this week. But yeah, that's it for me. Enjoy your week.
Smart. I like it. How about you, Kay?
So before I say my piece, I believe Trader AGAZ asked what are your thoughts on Hood earning?
Yeah.
And
So,
Sean, you cover. Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, go after you, Kay. You're gonna throw it
No,
over to
I
Shaun?
think Sean generally covers Hood a lot. So
Yeah.
So I basically had I basically had a trade idea, which is kind of floating around, kind of my anticipation around the earnings report that's coming out on the 13th of February, which is a couple of Tuesdays' time. So obviously to get my full thoughts, watch the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, of course. But generally, it's kind of playing with the market, the idea of the market, of how it kind of performed in Q4, of course, in November, December, it rocketed up. And where people are going to be placing those trades, placing those investments, it's got to be Robinhood. And likewise, Bitcoin as well went up 53% in Q4. Where are people buying crypto? Where are people doing that? They're hearing off their friends, etc. So it's more of a kind of logical thought process behind this earnings report. But that's kind of all I have around that. The levels and everything else you have to watch the video for. So yeah, I'll see you over there.
I will not spoil that. I'll just say there's key anchored VWAP support right here, where it's been kind of flatlining. So really curious to hear what you have to say there, Shaun. Good stuff. All right, Kay, back over to you, sir.
I mean, just play it safe, enjoy the process, I guess. From me, I'll be focusing on the tickers I talked about. There are a couple other tickers that I'm also looking at. So yeah, that's pretty much. If you want to follow along, all three of us on Twitter, I guess we do provide our tickers on Twitter on the day we take the trade. So yeah, that's it from my side.
All right, guys. Well, it's been another great week. Like I said, I think I just read right before we went on, like over 100 stocks reporting this week. We had the huge tech names last week. Markets are making new highs, and we've got a bunch of trade ideas continuously dropping. So again, check us out on X, on YouTube, especially these guys' channels on YouTube. And if you aren't already subscribed to the Trading Triangle, please do so. We have that target of 1,000 subs this year, and we are marching along nicely, as Sean said. So with that, have a great week of trading ahead, and thanks again for tuning in. And Sean and Kay, thanks again to you guys for all your help this week.
Thanks.
See you
Thank
next
you,
time.
guys. See you next week.